welcome to Kemma's Never Seen It. I'm Kemma, and the movie we're going to be talking about today is Mrs. Doubtfire. Yep, another classic I haven't seen with the beloved late Robin Williams, but just watched it. So let's go ahead and see what this movie's about based on the DVD cover summary. How far would an ordinary father go to spend time with his children? Daniel Hillard is no ordinary father, so when he learns his ex-wife needs a housekeeper, he applies for the job. With the perfect wig, a little makeup, and a dress for all occasions, he becomes Mrs. Doubtfire, a devoted British housekeeper who is hired on the spot. Free to be the woman he never knew he could be, the disguised Daniel creates a whole new life with his entire family. Outrageous, hilarious, and often touching, Robin Williams makes this box office hit a film to be watched again and again. So just like the description says, we're going to start off with Daniel Hillard. He is not an ordinary father. He is actually a voice actor. And we start off with him in the studio. He's doing voice acting for this cartoon. Now, while he's doing the voice acting, he's doing a little ad-libbing because, actors, they can do that, kind of go off script. But the people, the studio, I guess he does it a lot. They're not down for his antics. They're just like, read what's on the script. And Daniel's just like, but I'm an actor. Like, can I just play around? This is what I envision the character saying. And they don't like that. And they said if he leaves, he's not coming back. And Daniel quits on the spot. Do I think that's worth quitting over? I don't know. I'm not an actress. I don't even know if I really be good at improv. So I would be pretty okay with reading what's on the page. So, but I guess if you are a true actor and you want to put your personality into it, or you really want to get into the character, that can be annoying to be you're so restricted of what you can do. So maybe he's justified. I don't know. But since he quit his job, he's able to go pick up his kids at school. One of the kids is little Matilda. I've seen the movie Matilda, so we don't have to worry about that. But one of the kids is her. And then she has two older siblings, a sister and a brother. Now, when Daniel goes to the school to pick them up, they're just like, oh, I thought you weren't going to be able to pick us up. I thought you were working late. And Daniel is just like, oh, no, I got off early today, so I was able to swing by. They knew he got fired. They're just like, you got fired again? And I guess this is a repeating thing considering they know the pattern. But nonetheless, it's the son's birthday. His name is Chris. It's his birthday, and Danny is asking, oh, what do you want to do for your birthday? And he's just like, let's have a party. Now, Chris isn't supposed to be having a party per the mother because something to do with homework or him not keeping his grades up. But Nanny's just like, listen, we can have a party. We'll have it cleaned up by the time she gets home. She's working late anyway, so we'll be fine. This party has farm animals, there's kids running around everywhere, the house is all crazy. Side note, there's goats there and I really want a goat, but I digress. And it's just kind of chaos. It looks like all the kids are having a lot of fun and they're having a good time, but there's so much going on that I believe this is the grandmother goes upstairs to call the mom and snitch and be like, you will not believe what's going on here. So again, the mom's at work. She works an office job. And when she gets the call, she comes home immediately. She has a cake in hand because, again, it's Chris's birthday, so she's ready to celebrate with them. But then she pulls up. The police are there. There's farm animals running around. There's kids running around. And she goes inside, and everything's just chaos. Kids are jumping and dancing on top of tables and chairs and stuff. And where's Danny at? Where's the father? Dancing with them. And again, I say they were supposed to have that cleaned up in 4 hours. I don't know how they expected to have that cleaned up in 4 hours. But anyway, it's just a whole mess. There was a little pony that even ate the cake. Everything's going crazy. So the mom shuts down the party, and her name's Miranda. Miranda and Danny start arguing. The bad part about this is the kids are upstairs, on the stairs, listening to them argue. And I feel like this is also normal, which isn't good. So again, Miranda works. She, has an office job. She's a big boss, so she's actually important. And Danny, he's able to just be the fun parent. And Miranda kind of resents him for that. She feels like she always has to come home and clean up the mess. And she's never afforded the opportunity to be a fun parent or have a good time with everybody. So they're just arguing and bickering about that. They've been together for 14 years. And Miranda's just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. Danny's offering, oh, let's go to therapy. Let's go to vacation. Let's move. Let's do all of this. And she's just like, listen, we've been trying for 14 years. And, you know, if we go to therapy, it's just not really going to work. And also it's a little too late for therapy considering how long this has been going on. If we go on vacation, the problems are just going to come back when we get back home. And if we move, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's not the space, it's us. And she wants a divorce. So Danny thinks that this is just a temporary thing and she needs to cool off. So he goes to his brother's house and he's just like, we're not going to get a divorce. Our marriage isn't in trouble. She just needs some time. It's okay. We're going to be fine. That's the problem. That's the problem. They go to court, so obviously it's not fine. Now the judge recognizes that it's not the best situation to split up the parents from their children, but he also recognizes that Danny doesn't have a place to live and he also doesn't have a job. So he gives him 3 months to basically get his act together. He can have partial custody of them for now. I think it was just weekends. And he needs to get a job and have a stable living place within the next 3 months, and then they can revisit the custody. And based on the looks of it, it looks like he's not really worried about the marriage itself. He's more worried about the kids, which I'm not mad at. Sometimes people need to break up. Sometimes it's better for people to break up than be in a miserable relationship for the kids. So if he feels and she feels that they should separate but still have a good relationship with the kids, hey, that might be in the best interest. So Danny goes back to the house so that he can get the rest of his stuff. And he's letting them know, like, hey, this is not your guys' fault. Don't think it's your fault because of the party that we had. This is something that's been festering and finally blew up for a very, very long time. So don't think it's you guys. But we're going to figure something out and we're going to get this all taken care of. Then Danny goes to meet with a court liaison and they're basically saying, oh, I'm going to be checking in on you in the house, seeing the living condition, just, you know, looking around. Here's also a reference for some jobs so that you can go and get work as soon as possible. So she's kind of trying to help him, but she's trying to what am I saying? She's trying to kind of help him, but her demeanor is a little off-putting. But she probably deals with stuff like this all the time. So she's just like, here's the information. I'll be back to check. So Danny goes to this place. It's a studio. And he meets with this guy. He's just like, oh, hey, I'm here for a job. And turns out that he's not going to be doing anything as far as acting. He thinks he's going to be back on TV or doing some voice stuff. No, his job is to package all these cans and ship them out. That's what he's going to be doing day in and day out. Not what he wants to do, but I mean, he does need a job and he definitely wants to have custody of his kids. So he's going to do what he can to try to, you know, get that started. Back at the office. So at the beginning of the movie, before Miranda got the call about going back home because of the party, her boss tells her, oh, there's this guy who really wants to work with you and has ideas about designs and all this stuff and creating. And she's like, oh, that's great. That man ends up showing up and his name is Stu Dunmyers. Now, Stu is an old friend of Miranda. They used to, you know, be friends back in the day. They kind of lost touch as, you know, marriage, kids, work, all that stuff kind of happens, but now they're back together. And he is not hiding the fact that he's down for her. So she's throwing out all these ideas to him and just like, oh, here's the design for this. Here's this. Look at all of these. And he's just like, oh, we lost touch. Why did we lose touch? I've been keeping up with your career. You've been doing amazing for yourself. This dummy went ahead and was just like, listen, I'm going through a divorce. I'm just so vulnerable. I'm so weak and vulnerable right now. Of course, he smells that and he's just like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Well, let's just, you know, I really wanted to work with you on this project. Hopefully we can work more closely. So that's just a little scene. Then we're going to go over to Danny. Now, he does have a new house now. It's like an apartment. Hey, it's a step. It's his. It's messy. He has some unpacking and cleaning to do, but hey, it's his and he's working on it. The kids are over, they're having dinner, and he's just like, I'm trying. I have a job. I have this place, I'm making steps. They're having a good time talking over dinner, just trying to, keep the mood up because it's not the best situation. But he's trying his best just to keep everything lively. Then Miranda shows up and apparently she's an hour early and he gets mad. He's just like, she dropped you guys off late and now she wants to take you guys early? No.
You don't have to run off when she honks the horn. Come on, you're on my time now. You're my goddamn kids too.
Because the kids don't come out when she honks her horn, Miranda decides to go upstairs and rush into the apartment. She sees the state of it and she's just like, oh, charming, which is shade, but you know, again, it's his. He's trying, he's making steps. More than anything, he wants to be with his kids. So he's doing the little steps. And she lets them know that, oh, I'm going to be hiring a nanny / housekeeper to pick up the kids after school, to watch after them while I'm at work, you know, clean, cook for them, all that good stuff. Now he's upset because he's just like, why can't I do it? I'm their father. I can just do that for them. She tells him she'll think about it, but she knows good and goddamn well she's not going to let him do it. She's just not. The kids want him to do it. He wants to do it. She's just not about it. So he's just like, well, let me see the ad. I just want to see what you're looking for. He takes the ad from her, he reads it, and he changes the phone number that's on there. He adds like a couple of lines. That way the phone number changes on the ad. That way no one can actually get in touch with her. And that's where the fun begins. Again, Danny is a voice actor, really good at voices and doing different types of voices. So he calls Miranda's actual phone, her cell phone, and I think the home phone as well, and is pretending to be all these housekeepers, all these nannies, and it just sounds the worst. Sounds like a nightmare nanny with all of those circumstances.
I just want to know one thing. Are your kids well behaved? Or do they need like a few light slams every now and then?
So, of course, it's frustrating her, kind of making her doubt that she's going to be able to find a nanny until he finally calls her for real. So he calls her and it's just like, oh, I'm looking to, you know, sit your children, saying all these different things that she's able to do, calculates and stuff. And then Miranda's just like, oh, by the way, what's your name? Danny doesn't know what to say. I don't know how he didn't think of a name, but he's just like, looks in a newspaper, sees some words and just like, oh, my name is Mrs. Doubtfire. And she starts to be born. Danny goes over to his brother's house, who, I didn't say this before, but I'm guessing does like different makeup and like prosthetics and things for movies, I'm guessing, or maybe it's just for fun. I don't know. And he's just like, I need your help and I need to create this character. They go through a bunch of different looks of, you know, where they want to land. And some just aren't quite nanny material or what he's feeling is right until they get the final look. So now we're introduced to Mrs. Doubtfire. She goes to the house to meet the kids, to meet Miranda. Of course, because it's Danny, he knows the kids and is saying all of these different things that would be able to, you know, kind of catch their attention and make them like Mrs. Doubtfire more. Miranda's just like, oh, this is perfect. This is what I needed. They kind of go in the kitchen to talk a little bit and they dig a little bit into Miranda's dynamic with Danny. Before they do that, sorry, let's go back real quick. So as Mrs. Doubtfire is meeting the kids, the oldest daughter, her name's Lydia, she's just like, I don't understand why we need a nanny. Why can't dad just do it? And Miranda, the mom, is trying to bash Danny. But Mrs. Doubtfire is just like, uh-oh, I don't think you should be doing this in front of the kids. No. And Miranda's just like, oh, you're right. Which is what I've been saying this whole time. Like, it seems like they're so comfortable, like, arguing and yelling and just bagging on each other in front of the kids. I don't think that's healthy to do. That's not good. But anyway, back in the kitchen, Miranda opens up about Danny a little bit and it's just like, oh, I think this divorce is going to be a blessing, blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, just she feels so comfortable talking to Mrs. Doubtfire that she's just like, you know what? When can you start? You're hired. And Mrs. Doubtfire gets hired on the spot. So after all of that, Mrs. Doubtfire goes home to change, to turn back into Danny. And the court liaison is at Danny's apartment. Now, of course, she sees Mrs. Doubtfire as this woman, doesn't know anything. No one knows anything at this point. And it's just like, oh, I'm looking for Daniel Hillard. And then Mrs. Doubtfire is just like, oh, I'm his older sister. Let's go upstairs and let's go get him. So Danny does this back and forth between changing from Mrs. Doubtfire to Danny, back and forth. That way he can try to, you know, not trick the court liaison, but kind of just like play the role of just like, oh, I'm here. Let's do our meeting. You know, bye, Mrs. Doubtfire, go to bed. All that kind of stuff.
Danny, there's a Mrs. Sellner here to see you.
Oh, is she here?
Yes, dear, she is. Oh, Mrs. Sellner, I just got out of the shower.
Again, good thing he's an actor, because without that, he would have failed miserably. But he got it done, and she was able to kind of see the house and just chat for a little bit. So moving forward, we now have Danny, who goes to work. He's doing his packing and shipping, and Mrs. Doubtfire is the nanny who goes over to the house to take care of the kids. Now, when Mrs. Doubtfire goes over to the house, she's going to set up some rules that he should have enforced when he was in the picture still, but I digress. And Mrs. Doubtfire is just like, go upstairs, do your homework, clean, do all this kind of stuff, and lays down the law a little bit, which again should have been done initially, but hey, I guess there was a change of heart. So again, Mrs. Doubtfire is the nanny, housekeeper, needs to, keep the house clean, take care of the kids, cook and all this stuff. She doesn't know how to cook and ends up ruining dinner. Burns her chest up, burns her breast, and has to end up ordering takeout, which thank God she saved it, but yeah, might need to learn some skills, girl. But again, orders takeout, serves it up like Mrs. Doubtfire cooked it, and, saves the day. And from there, things start to come together. Mrs. Doubtfire is coming into her own, again, cleaning around the house, playing with the kids, doing all this different stuff with them. Danny at home is learning different things that he needs to do. He's learning how to cook. He's learning how to clean, how to sew, do all this good stuff, which is stuff that he should have done initially, but it's okay. He's learning now. And yeah, both ends are actually doing very good. Mrs. Doubtfire is, helping out the kids and taking care of the home and helping out the mom, while Danny is also learning basic human skills, but also being able to spend time with his kids. Meanwhile, Miranda is still seeing old boy. So it looks like they're kind of dating or going out on dates and stuff, keeping it kind of like casual, but they're also still working together. So, but he ends up meeting the kids, which to me was a little much. But hey, she's moving on and, has known him, is getting to know him more in this space. So, it's whatever. Mrs. Doubtfire ends up coming over so that she can meet him and emasculates him a little bit. But,
You own that big, expensive car up there. Oh, dear. Well, they say a man who has to buy a big car like that's trying to compensate for smaller genitals, is he?
And Miranda also asked Mrs. Doubtfire about some advice when it comes to moving on and seeing other people. But of course, because Mrs. Doubtfire is Danny, not giving very good advice.
How long after Mr. Doubtfire passed away, Winston, did you feel any desire?
Never.
Later on, Mrs. Doubtfire is helping Lydia with homework. As she's doing that, she's like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Goes to the bathroom, doesn't lock the door. I don't understand why people don't lock doors. Why don't people lock doors? But whatever. Because Mrs. Doubtfire didn't lock the door, the son Chris walks in, sees Mrs. Doubtfire standing to pee, gets scared, and it was just like, Lydia, we gotta call the cops. Mrs. Doubtfire runs in and is just like, hey, it's not what you think. Like, I'm sorry that's what you saw, blah, 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 blah. And Chris is kind of talking back to her and being like, you need to get the hell out of here. And then Danny blows his cover and says, it's actually me, your father. I just did this to spend more time with you. Which again, in their eyes, it's hard to grasp because like it's a little weird. But hey, this whole time they've been spending time with their dad, which, is what they wanted this whole time. So hey, sounds like a good deal. For some reason, the son is standoffish and like doesn't want to touch him as Mrs. Doubtfire, which I don't really want to get into, but there's some undertones is what I'll say.
Come here, Chris.
No, it's okay. I get it. I just, don't want to hug you or anything. Not just yet.
It's cool. It's a guy thing.
But he's just like, listen, don't tell your little sister, Natalie, I believe is her name, and don't tell your mother. Let's just keep it our secret. As long as we keep it a secret, I can keep coming by. We can keep doing this as normal. Everything will be great. And they agree. Back to the studio. Danny comes in doing his job, shipping, packing. And there's this show that's going on with this guy who's talking about dinosaurs. And it is the most boring thing that you could ever watch. Danny sees it and he's just like, he's talking to someone. And he's just like, who kept this guy on TV? And turns out he's talking to the director, who's been keeping that guy on TV.
What kind of idiot kept this guy on the air for 25 years?
Me.
But Nanny just kind of expresses just like, it's just kind of boring and it could be better, da 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 da. And the director's just like, okay, interesting. Back to Mrs. Doubtfire and Miranda. Now, they're in the kitchen. They're having a little heart-to-heart. And Miranda finally opens up more about what happened between her and Daniel. Miranda said something that really drew her to Danny was him being so spontaneous and how loving and passionate he was. I mean, he was average in bed, but he had all these other good things about him. But just over time, it just seemed like he couldn't take anything seriously and it started to weigh on her. She had to work all the time because he kept being in between jobs. And it's good that he was able to take care of the kids. He was able to be there for them while, she was working. But it just weighed on her so much because anytime she tried to come home early or anytime she tried to have fun with the kids, she would always have to clean up a mess. She would always have to fix something. And she felt like she was put into this box of just being the strict, no nonsense, no fun parent. And she didn't want to be like that. She said that she didn't want to be that kind of mother.
I didn't like who I was when I was with him. I would turn into this horrible person. I didn't want my kids growing up with a mother like that.
So she thinks that her divorcing Daniel is probably the best thing for both of them. She seems like she's happier without him because she's able to just be more expressive, try to be more fun, da 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 da. She doesn't know how Danny's doing, but she's just like, hopefully Danny is also better. And, he is because he's Mrs. Doubtfire, so he's able to spend time with the kids and blah, 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 blah. But I think without the kids, probably wouldn't be doing too well. Like, I don't think if he was Mrs. Doubtfire, he would be coping very well at all. So we're back in the studio, and Danny's all alone. It looks like there's no one around, but the set for the dinosaurs is still out. So he goes and he starts playing with the dinosaurs, pretending like he's doing his own little show. He's doing voices. He's, doing all this different stuff and making it interesting what the dinosaur show should be about. The director comes in. He's just like, I like that. I like what you're doing. And he wants to run some ideas with Danny and tells him he wants to meet for dinner next Friday at 7 p.m. After work, we're back at Danny's place. It's clean, y'all. The place is clean. Everything looks organized. Everything looks good. He actually cooked dinner for the kids. And of course, the son and daughter, the older daughter and son, know that he is Mrs. Doubtfire. But they're just like, we're so proud of you. You actually have been doing very well. Everything's clean. The dinner's great. We're so proud of all the progress you've been making. So that's good. Again, making progress because more than anything, he just wants custody of his kids. He wants to be able to spend time with his kids, have time, and just, have the will to just do things with him when he wants to. So he's making strides in the right direction. Back to the house, Miranda is talking about dressing up because she's going to be having dinner with Stu. But it's not just going to be her. Her and the kids are going with him so they can all have this nice little family event. And she invites Mrs. Doubtfire to come. Now I'm pretty sure in Mrs. Doubtfire's head, she's just like, oh, I'm going to mess this up. But turns out it's the exact same time, exact same day, and at the exact same restaurant. Danny is supposed to be meeting with the director. His name is Mr. Lundy. Supposed to be meeting with them to talk about the show. Danny tries to reschedule, but Mr. Lundy's a very busy man. He's a director. He has all this stuff going on. He's trying to go months out. Nope. And the receptionist just like, listen, my word of advice, don't cancel if you want something good for yourself. So Danny has to come up with a plan to be Mrs. Doubtfire and Danny at the same time in the same place at the same time. Mr. Lundy shows up at the restaurant first. The good thing is he's right in front of Miranda and them. So Mr. Lundy is just like, oh, I'm here for my reservation. They ask if he wants a smoking or non-smoking section. Pause. What video did I say this on? I cannot remember the movie that I said this on. I'm pretty sure, what movie did I say this on? Hold on. Anchorman. The fact that people were able to smoke indoors is insane. Like I said, people try to get away with it now by vaping and stuff, but even still, a lot of places don't allow that. Smoking inside is crazy. Let alone cigarettes. They stink. People were blowing them into kids' faces, ashing them on people's hands and on their food. That is insane. And this, for once, is not me being a prude. This is me being like, What kind of sense does that make? I'm so glad that that's not a thing anymore. Anyway, Mr. Lundy decides to go to the non-smoking section. And then Miranda and them are right behind. Their Stu is just like, oh, we have a reservation for us. They get asked if they want to do a smoking or non-smoking section. And Mrs. Doubtfire chimes in and says, we want a smoking section. That way they could be separate at two different ends of the restaurant. So it looks like Danny has a plan.
Smoking or non-smoking?
Non-smoking.
Smoking!
So throughout the dinner, Danny's going back and forth. When he's with the family, he's Mrs. Doubtfire, dressed up, ready to go. But he changes and goes into the bathroom, takes everything off, and goes with Mr. Lundy. That way he could be Danny. Now, the thing is, with Mr. Lundy, he has some throwing back scotches. One glass after another, after another, after another. So as you can imagine, this is probably going to get bad very, very quick, but so far, he's managing both. But it does get to a point where Danny messes up and shows up as Mrs. Doubtfire to Mr. Lundy in his normal voice.
Can I help you, man?
Oh, sorry I'm late, but after all those scotches, I had to piss like a racehorse.
And Mr. Lundy is just like, Danny, why are you dressed up like a woman? But he covers it up and it's just like, oh, I'm the face of your new show, and kind of tries to pitch it that way. So good thing he's quick-witted, because if not, that could have gone over very, very bad. And the other section, the family is finally having their dinner. Now, Stu mentions, while Mrs. Doubtfire is there, that he was getting some jambalaya, but he didn't want any pepper in it because he's allergic to pepper. You might know where my mind went, but we're not going to talk about it. So when Mrs. Doubtfire heard that, and as Mrs. Doubtfire was changing in between Danny and Mrs. Doubtfire, she snuck into the kitchen, took some cayenne pepper, put it in his food, which then resulted in him choking in the other section. Mrs. Doubtfire sees this from across the way and runs to go and help him from choking. Because now she's just like, oh no, I think I almost killed him. And goes to like, it's not the Heimlich. Is that the Heimlich where you like do that one? I think it's the Heimlich. Goes to do that that method on him so he could spit out the shrimp. And he finally got it out of him. Tell me why he spit up a whole shrimp. You just swallow shrimp whole? You just swallow shrimp. I love shrimp. I love food, if you didn't know. I don't just swallow food whole. I'm not a barbarian. But Mrs. Doubtfire gets a shrimp out, saves his life, stands up. The mask came down. No!
You all right there?
No! I was devastated. I was so devastated. I was so upset because the plan was going over so well. Again, he was able to spend time with his kids like he wanted to. Also, just like doing more for himself, able to like learn all these different things, you know, cooking, cleaning, sewing, and all this other good stuff. And now it's ruined. Obviously not a good look, but it was in the name of being with his kids. Now they're back in court and the judge finds out about it and it's just like, listen, you were able to fool us about this, which, you know, to some extent, good job. But obviously with your erratic lifestyle that you've been living and, you know, all that's been going on, we think you can only have supervised visits with your children. So no more temporary custody. It only has to be if someone is around to watch him with the kids. And he's devastated.
And I refuse to further subject 3 innocent children to your peculiar and potentially harmful behavior.
Now, of course, because, you know, can't be Mrs. Doubtfire anymore, she's gone and they have to find a new sitter, but they're not having any luck.
I don't do laundry. I don't do windows. I don't do carpets. I don't do bathtubs. I don't do toilets, and I don't do diapers.
Well, my children have been potty trained for quite some time.
There's just no sitter like Mrs. Doubtfire. Mrs. Doubtfire was perfect because it was Danny. It was the father. It was a new and improved Danny who was able to do everything that he wasn't doing before, plus all the fun that he had with them before. You can't find anybody like that. But they hear Mrs. Doubtfire. They think they're going crazy. No, Mrs. Doubtfire is on TV. The show got greenlit, y'all. Mrs. Doubtfire has her own show. The show got greenlit. And once Miranda sees that, she likes the show and she's laughing and having a good time with it and decides to go to the studio to visit Danny to talk to him. Now they're having another heart-to-heart and Danny explains like, hey, you took my children away from me. You didn't stand up for me in court. You didn't say anything. You just let this happen. Like, I can't really forgive that, which I can understand. Again, at the end of the day, if they're going to get divorced, get divorced. Who gives a fuck? Get divorced. But he wanted to be with his kids so much. That was his main priority and goal. He just wanted to be with the kids. So it really sucked that, you know, now he's not able to without someone looking over his back. He seemed like to be a really great father, and now he just can't do that. But Miranda explains, you know what? I don't want to argue about this. You're right. And more than anything, I think we all just miss Mrs. Doubtfire. She doesn't really want to refer him as Mrs. Doubtfire, but Miss Doubtfire as their own person. Just like the kids miss Mrs. Doubtfire. I miss Mrs. Doubtfire. We just want her back.
They miss her terribly.
What are you saying?
Daniel, the kids need you.
And then they go to the house. The kids are ready to meet their new sitter. And turns out the new sitter isn't Mrs. Doubtfire. It's Danny. So now Mrs. Doubtfire doesn't even have to be in the picture anymore. It could just be Danny taking care of the kids. Again, I think he has to take care of the kids outside of the house, but that's even better. He could take them out and about and just spend time with them without any supervision. And I think in the end, they did end up getting divorced. But honestly, it seems like in this situation, that is the best thing. I've heard about people saying they are children of parents who stayed together when they should have divorced, and it was one of the worst things that they had growing up. So I think that if you know you should not be in that relationship, you should divorce, you should separate, whatever, but you still are going to be there for the kids, you can make it work. You can definitely make it work. And look at Danny. He made it work. And that's the end of the movie. I think that it's a very good, heartfelt movie. Also, I just love the message of, you know, wanting to, you know, him just more than anything wanting to be with the kids and not necessarily wanting to stay in the relationship for the kids. I think that's where a lot of people mess up, where they're just like, oh, I want to stay in this relationship, or I'm only going to stay with this person because of the kids. I think that if the relationship, the situation that way isn't healthy, does it suck to have to bounce kids back and forth? Yes, but I don't know. I feel like that's better than them being in this toxic household where the parents hate each other. They don't get along. There are all this kind of, I think it's better for them to be separate and take care of the children that way. And honestly, that might be able to heal the relationship. If it doesn't, that's okay. But it might be able to heal the relationship in the future, and they can, you know, maybe even be acquaintances. Who knows? This movie got a 71% on Rotten Tomatoes. I do think that's fair. I think rating this in the 70s is pretty fair. Like I said, I think that it's a cute movie. I think that it's a good movie. There are some undertones of some stuff that I don't really like, but I do think that this is a pretty cute movie. And again, I do like the message at the end where Mrs. Doubtfire is talking about like sometimes a house has a mom and a dad, sometimes it just has a dad, sometimes it just has a mom. But you know what? Whatever makes the situation happy and healthy, that's what matters. Especially if you have kids, that's what matters. Also, I've heard of this movie a lot. I don't know if I've heard any references of Mrs. Doubtfire before. There weren't any that I really recognized when I watched the movie, but I've heard of this a lot. And now I'm glad that I watched it. I think that it's a very cute movie. But that's it, guys. That is the movie for this week. Thank you so much again for tuning in. As always, if there's something that you agree with, don't agree with, you want to say how good I did, or you have any movie recommendations that you want to run by me, leave them in the comments below. Speaking of leaving me movie recommendations, I do see the movies that you guys recommend to me. I do. There are just so many movies that I haven't seen that I have to cycle through and, you know, pick as fit. So I see them and I will be watching them. So don't think that any of those comments or anything are left unread. No, I see, it's all up here. I just have to get to them. I haven't heard any news about getting rid of TikTok lately. So we still have TikTok. And I'm also on Instagram at kemmasneverseenit, while you can also follow me on BlueSky at thatskemmaj. Also, I feel like the last couple videos I've been forgetting to mention this. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and tell everybody you know about my channel. I post every Thursday. Tell everybody you know about it. Moms, dads, aunts, uncles, all of the family, all the farm animals. Everybody. You got a pet rock. Tell them and let them know that I'm here. Also, Once again, like to express my gratitude and appreciation for you tuning in every week. You guys have been watching me every Thursday. That's insane. But if you haven't, and this is the first video you're seeing of me, I have more back there. So run it back and let me know what you think about those as well. But that's it for this video, dear. I will see you guys back here next Thursday. Bye.